You can get to graduates first via www.uclam.ac.uk/graduates first, or you can go to Popular and you can click on aptitude tests. So either way, they'll both take you through to the same place, and that would be here. So this is the first system, graduates first, and this is really preparing you more for, like, if you went to go to a job and they gave you a test as part of your interview or as part of your assessment center or as part of, you know, getting a job with them. So I remember when I was first starting out, I went for one job, and they gave me a test on mathematics, and I was really, you know, my maths is not my strongest subject, so I was completely phased by that, and maybe I didn't do as well as maybe as I should have done. But if I'd practiced in here first, you know, I wouldn't have been as scared about that test. I also, as well, in one of the jobs, got a test on coding, how to code in a particular programming language. Unfortunately, I didn't know that programming language, so I actually answered it using the answers for a different programming language. So obviously I didn't get it, but the coding principles were the same, but I just didn't know that particular language, unfortunately. So that was my fault for not checking before going for the job what it was that they were actually looking for. You know, could I actually fulfill their criteria? Otherwise I wouldn't have applied for it, because, you know, I would have known it wasn't suitable. So this basically helps you to kind of do that transition of, like, you know, the employer's asking you to do a test, so you can prepare for it. Now, when you come here, you can actually select by different sectors, and then if you select a sector, you can also then select by the types of assessment that you want to do. And sometimes they tell you the kind of assessment that they're going to give you, and then that helps you to kind of get to the practice that you want to do. But you don't have to do it that way. You can actually go here and you can actually select the different types of kind of assessments that you could get at job interviews here. So let's have a look. So numerical, I mentioned that before, like math skills. So if you click on any of these ones here and press start, it's going to kind of give you some mathematical things here. So this one's looking at a table, giving the answer. Let's have a look. So what was the total approximate number of mortgage approvals for the USA and Italy combined? So that's a time frame from 2015, so to 2005 to 2007. So that's that 2-year gap. And then you're looking for Italy, which is this purple one, and then you're looking for the US, which is this blue one. So you'd have to add these two together, and then you'd work out that was what answer it there. So that's quite of a hard one. You know, it's not necessarily kind of straightforward and easy. You know, that really requires some thought to do, and it's not kind of like maths, like, you know, 10 plus 10 or something. It's more like, let's look at some data, let's get the answers. So it's really, really worthwhile practicing the numerical reasoning, because they are identifying how quickly you can kind of look at that information and then be able to give a right answer, a correct answer to it. So it's worthwhile, definitely, you know, if you get asked for numerical reasoning, definitely practicing some of those. And even if you don't get asked, it's numerical reasoning and key things like language, like verbal. That's probably why they're at the top, because they're probably the kind of things that the employer's kind of very, very keen for you to be able to do very well in. So in verbal reasoning, I have to read that piece of text and say whether it's true or false or not. So, you know, it's those kind of things, like, you know, being able to kind of look at something and kind of say, well, you know, can I identify the answer correctly to it? So the employer's basically looking at your particular competencies in your really, really basic mathematical and verbal kind of reasoning areas. And then you kind of move into things like logical. So let's have us do one of these. Okay, kind of what you would expect. What comes next in the sequence? Looking at it right now, I don't particularly have any ideas to that, but I'd have to kind of work it out and I'd have to say what it was. So, you know, I do struggle with these kind of tests. So it's really worthwhile practicing, you know, if you believe the employer is going to be asking you for some kind of particular logical set of questions. And also as well, kind of spatial. It's these kind of things that you don't really think about, but if you go into it, it's a very, very similar as well. But which figure is identical to the first? So there's the first one. So which one is identical? I think they've rotated it. I'm going to show my stupidity here. I have to rotate it round. It's looking a bit like that one, but maybe that's flipped, maybe that's mirrored. No, that's not really that. Maybe it's that one. No, it's not a circle, it's a square. See, even then, I'm going to fail getting that job. If I've not done this practice, I'm going to kind of not get as good a marks. So it really gives you an idea of kind of like how you can kind of go about practicing. Now, a really interesting part of this is game assessment. So employers are actually increasingly starting to give candidates sort of game-like tests. And you would kind of think that could be quite good, but in some ways, sometimes it's good to practice these things. So this one here, I think, is about. Let's have a look and see. I think this is a memory test. Let's have a look here. I'm going to play it. Right. So I've got to remember where these things are. So let's have a look. Okay, I can remember that. That's quite easy. It's going to get harder and harder. How good a memory do I have? Okay, let's see. Oh no, I've made a mistake already. That was just a misclick. That wasn't a memory problem. That was just a misclick. But you get the idea. The employer is going to potentially test you with something that's kind of like a game. What else have we got? I quite like this one. This is kind of like to test to see how much of a risk taker you are. So you have to inflate the balloon. And the balloon might pop. Oh no, I've not collected it before it popped. Oh no, I took too much risk. But here, I can't collect it straight away because that would be unrisky. I'm going to inflate a little bit, then I'm going to collect it. So, it kind of tests whether the person is kind of a risk taker. Now, it might be they might want you to be more risky in certain type of roles because they might want you to be a speculator. But in other type of roles, it might not want you to take risks. So you might have to identify, like, how good am I going to do on this test to kind of see, like, are they kind of, thinking that I'm going to be too risky or too unrisky. So that would be about knowing the kind of job role and the kind of understanding, whether you should be a risk taker or not. So yeah, there's various different games in here, and these seem to be going up all the time. So there's going to be lots of new different types of games to kind of do and play. Video interviews is interesting. We have video interviews on the other platform, as you'll remember. So we had Interview 360. This is slightly different because they're actually based on competency and strength-based interviews. So these are ones that employers kind of deal with on a regular basis. They ask people for. So you can actually click into them and say you've got your kind of device available, and then you can start doing the interview. Hey, got the interview there, and I can say, do next, etc., etc. So I can kind of work through that, and it basically analyzes as well your face as you're doing it, and it kind of tells you like whether it thinks you were kind of like unhappy in the interview, or whether you were overly happy, or whether so it's looking at your face as well and giving you that kind of information to kind of analyze your kind of interview. So yeah, it's worthwhile maybe having a little bit of a look through that one as well as the one that's also on the other platform too. Now, if we go back into here again, we do have some other ones too. Things about personality. There's also some assessments in career edge personality as well, but you can actually do sort of personality assessments here. Then you've also got situational judgment analysis. And as mentioned before, coding. If there are any people out there that are going into database roles, so it might be that you're not a computing student, but many roles nowadays they do like it if you do have some kind of programming or data skills, because many roles are becoming a lot more technical these days. So you've got these common programming language. Python's a really well-known programming language. C#, you get a lot of money if you're a C# programmer. JavaScript is a very, very well-known one, and also general ability kind of coding. So if I was to go into the easy one here, it's going to come up with a test here, and it's going to ask me some questions. So what does syntax refer to? Syntax refers to where is it? Rules and structures that define how the code should be written. So I bet I could easily do that one, but I think if I got to the hard one, I think I would probably struggle with the harder version. But anyway, it's just useful sometimes, if you are somebody who wants to know a little bit about coding, you could maybe try and test yourself on the basic understanding of how programming languages work. Also, as well, there's other bits as well. These quite well-known tests like Watson, Glazier, IPAT, and CAP. And if you go into any of these, you also can kind of experience what it would be like to do these particular types as well. So this is basically asking you to define the truth of particular statements. So you can have a go at that one as well. So I think the thing really is just going on and maybe having a bit of a play and just having a go. I think things like numerical and verbal and logical are going to be best, and then the game assessments. And then probably, you know, they're kind of the things that are probably going to be perhaps a little bit more common than you would maybe get. So that's useful there. Now, in the My Results area, this is very interesting. And by the way, if you're thinking that these are my results, they're all the red negative ones. These are, I didn't do these. These are just ones that were put in for me. So no, I didn't get most of them wrong. But it tells you how many tests you've taken, how much time you've spent on the tests. And then if you click into them, you can kind of see, you know, how well you've done against other people. So, you know, I'm a low compared to others. I can also see which ones I got right and which ones I got wrong. And also as well, it gives me some ideas about how to make changes. So it doesn't kind of just say, well, okay, you did badly and leave you there. It kind of goes, well, how could I improve? And then so maybe it would be a good idea to read like, okay, well, how could I make the improvements here? You know, how can I become more accurate? How could I do it more quickly? So there's a lot of information on this one. Some of them have fewer information, some of them have a lot of information, but it kind of makes sense, you know, that you would you know, look at your results and kind of look at the suggestions for making an improvement, because then you could get better and better and better. And you can also download the results here, and you can retake the test and see if you can make improvements to it. Because obviously, you know, if you're going for a job that you really want and they're telling you that you need to do an iPad test, well, you should probably do this as often as you can to get 100% and make sure that you really know it inside out, because when you come to the test, you can sail through it, you'll be really confident, and they'll be very impressed. So it's those kind of things there. Now, this bit here that says My Learning, it's got lots of videos that show you how to do really well in the different types of tests or things. So if I click game, it shows me how to do well in game-based assessments. If I click on logical, it shows me how to do well in logical assessments. So if I click on the videos, very, very short, bite-sized videos, just giving you those really great insights. So if you don't really want to read a big chunk of text about how you can improve, instead, you might want to watch a very short video about it instead. I'm sure that many people who are students will probably jump all over short video guides. And they're really nice. They've got nice music and they're well produced. They do look like really, really nice videos to look at. And there's so many of them. There's about 200 of them or something like that. So there's a lot there. The last bit here is this bit about CVs. And what you can do is you can you can put your CV into the platform. And then you can go online and you can copy and paste the job description that you want to apply for and paste it into here. And then the system will compare, will look at the CV and look at the job description, and it'll tell you how good a match it thinks you are for the role. And then it'll give you some reasons why it thinks that. Now, it might be that if you think you are a better match than what it's saying, you can have a look and say, okay, maybe I haven't got the right kind of keywords in my CV that maybe it's looking for. Maybe I'm missing something, you know, that it's going to tell me that I'm missing. So to be able to compare your CV to a job description is quite interesting. I wouldn't kind of say that it was infallible. But it might be something of interest that you want to put in and kind of think, well, you know, why is it saying that I'm a low match for this role? What is it saying that I can make a change to my CV to make me a better match for this role? So I'm saying take it with a pinch of salt in some ways, but it could be something that might be interesting just to have a bit of a look and see, you know, how it kind of matches up and things like that. One other thing, we've got 1 minute left. I'm doing really well, actually managing the 15-minute time things, which is really, really good. Down the bottom right, there's these employer job application guides, and at the moment there's around 100 of them, and they're spread over lots of different sectors. And so that's quite useful because it means that, you know, if you were interested in a job with a type of company in a type of sector, you can click on the particular ones and it'll basically tell you what it's like to apply for that organization. So how to complete a job application for this company, how to practice for their assessments, how to practice for their video assessment, how to practice for their final stage assessment, what kind of tests maybe you should think about doing, tells you about the company, tells you about their core values. That's very useful because if you know the company's core values at interview, you can impress them by knowing that, by answering answering the question in that way. And then their recruitment process, what's the steps of their recruitment process, how to apply with them online, what that is like, what their form is like, what kind of other tests that relate to that as well. Now, these are quite long sometimes. But if you really, really wanted to go and work for this company, you know, if you did and read this and did what they were saying, you probably were very much a very high quality candidate for them, because, you know, you've really sort of looked in. So it's not as if there's one for every job out there. It's only 100, but they are in key industries, and so it's worthwhile having a look at, you know, companies that are similar to that one there.